Coming up on this week's edition of Vikings Beyond the Gridiron. The calendar is turning to September, and with that brings a tough time in the NFL.
You know, whatever happens, happens. You can't do nothing about it. Just got to go out there and control what you can control.
Plus, hear from two veterans who have worked to become big-time contributors to the Minnesota Vikings.
Just go out there and play, and everything will take care of itself, and it'll unfold how it's supposed to.
See how a pair of defenders spent an off day putting in a different kind of work.
It's good, clean fun for us, so it was awesome. Yeah, it's great.
And the 10th year anniversary of a national tragedy hits home hard for a Vikings wide receiver.
That was the toughest part, not knowing what's really going on, not knowing if they really made it out safe.
It's all next on this week's edition of Vikings Beyond the Gridiron.
I don't know any better than hard work. And I want our football team to have that mentality.
Strong work ethic, and you're mentally tough, then you're going to get the job done. Have the opportunity to wear the purple and gold.
This is here is just to show that I'll compete at a high level, lead this team.
It is the hardest time of the year in football. The time when every little detail is examined and gut-wrenching decisions need to be made. Decisions that impact a team's roster and can alter a player's career. As the calendar shifts to the end of August, it brings with it cut-down time all across the NFL. A tough time of year for the players, coaches, and the front office.
Well, everybody knows what comes up at the end of August, that it's the final cuts and things like that. But for me, it's focusing on each day, taking it one day at a time, controlling the things that I can control, being the best that I can be. That way, at the end of August, no matter what happens, I don't have any regrets.
Try not to worry about, the business of the game. A lot of guys aren't going to be here, a lot of guys will be. Just focus on, the task at hand. Take it one day at a time. Really one play at a time, one day at a time, 1 week at a time. And everything else should unfold.
For some players, this time of year comes and goes without any worries about job security. For others, it has become normal to sweat out the final days of the month and think about the roster bubble.
Every position, there's a battle for a roster spot. The last 2 years, I've been battling for that one job, and once you get the opportunity, you have to take advantage of it, which is kind of what's presenting itself to me now. And I was fortunate to have a good player to learn under and become a better fullback.
The thing I can say from experience is, try not to think about it and just treat it like, you're here and play like you're here. Whatever happens, happens. You can't do nothing about it. Just got to go out there and control what you can control, and that's the attitude, effort, and what you do for the games.
It helps to have gone through it before and have a little bit of experience, and I've experienced both sides of it. And so, but either way, you're in the same position as other guys who haven't, and so I do the best that I can. I don't focus too far ahead. I focus on the task at hand.
No decision is made without plenty of thought and studying by the front office and coaches. From the off-season workouts to training camp to the preseason games, General Manager Rick Spielman and his staff use every possible moment to break down their roster and finalize these hard decisions.
We started that from day one when they reported in for our off-season program. And we meet weekly with the coaching staff, discuss each player, how they're progressing on the field, how they're progressing in the weight room, how they're progressing in the meetings. And we start to formulate a little bit what potentially our 53-man roster could look like, and also the potential practice squad candidates that we'll keep.
The turning of the calendar from August to September signals an exciting time in the football world. But each team needs to make the tough decisions and cut down from 90 players to their 53-man active roster. No choice is taken lightly, as each decision is life-changing and could be the difference between a win and a loss this fall.
I would love to still be here. I don't like moving, but if God has me going down a different path, then so be it. Yeah, I'll do it with a smile on my face.
Just let everything play out. You're doing your best on the football field, and let your play talk for itself. You know, they make a decision to cut you or not, be ready for it. They don't have to play ball.
It's very difficult because you spend all year bringing in 90 players to compete for your roster. You've seen all these kids, and they were great kids, how they competed through the OTAs, through the mini camps, been with us through training camp, and then you just have to sit down there and make some very difficult decisions to get your best 53 players. And you know, we met with the coaches, we met with the scouts, had numerous meetings to come up with a consensus on what we felt would be the best 53 going forward.
Coming up, learn how Hurricane Katrina still has a big impact 10 years later for a Vikings wide receiver. And up next, hear from two veterans who are expecting big things in 2015. That's next on Vikings Beyond the Gridiron. Vikings Beyond the Gridiron is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Minnesota Vikings, by Verizon, the official wireless partner of the Minnesota Vikings, and by U.S. Bank, the official bank of the Minnesota Vikings and proud sponsor of U.S. Bank Stadium. The dog days of summer are long gone. Time in the hot summer heat at training camp is in the rearview mirror. Day after day of the same thing. The time at camp in July and August can be a necessary evil and a long grind for many NFL players. But one Viking constantly reflects on how lucky he is.
The NFL career is short-lived, and that's why I try to enjoy it, even in times like this when, during camp it's a grind, but I try to have fun with it every day, lighten the mood, crack some jokes, get guys to realize that this isn't the worst thing you could be doing.
The glass is always half full for safety Andrew Sandejo. That positive attitude has helped get him where he is today as a fifth-year veteran who many people believed would never be here after going undrafted and signing with the Vikings in 2011.
Yeah, I've always just stayed positive with it. Coming in as a free agent, odds are kind of against you, but it's just one of those things when you get your opportunity, you got to make the most of it. That's basically what I've been trying to do my whole career thus far, and just contribute to the team wherever I can.
Taking advantage of every opportunity has taken Sandejo from a free agent fighting for his NFL life to a veteran who is counted on heavily by the Vikings defense and special teams. No one works harder to be ready to play each season than Sandejo, who uses every opportunity to learn and improve his game.
Every year, every day, trying to pick the brains of older veterans that are around, coaches, things like that, and that's really what it comes down to after that. Your ability gets better because you learn the game better.
While many thought he would never play a down in the NFL, Sandejo is set to kick off his 5th season in purple and his 6th season in the NFL. He takes every day with a positive attitude, knowing how lucky he is to be playing the game he loves, and he's always thinking of how to continue that dream of putting on an NFL uniform.
Don't get caught up in what other guys are doing, if they're doing well or not doing well, and just go out there and play, and everything will take care of itself and it'll unfold how it's supposed to. And just worry about taking care of your job and doing your responsibility, and just do what you got to do.
While one undrafted veteran has beaten the odds to become a big-time contributor for the Vikings, another veteran has defied the doubters. Jarius Wright is entering his 4th season with the Vikings after being selected out of Arkansas in the 4th round of the 2012 NFL Draft, a time when many experts said his small frame would never last in pro football. But here he is, 4 years later, as one of the key threats on the Vikings offense.
This is my 4th year. I know what to expect. I've played a good amount of football in the NFL, so I wouldn't say so much my mindset is different, but there are some things that I do want to get done as a team player.
After a big year in 2014, Even bigger things are expected from Wright this season as he continues to have a strong bond with Teddy Bridgewater. Being a veteran and through this time of year before helps as he knows what to expect and prepare for in August.
I've gotten a lot of NFL reps in a whole year under Norv Turner's offense, so I feel like I got a complete grasp on the offense, and I understand the NFL.
Both Sandejo and Wright have survived the dog days of football grind and beaten the odds by outworking their opponents and constantly striving to prove any doubters wrong. They've made it through plenty of worried nights in August about their NFL future and are now primed to be a big part of bringing success to the 2015 season. But they never forget where they came from and constantly know that someone is always out there searching to take their job.
It's always a battle, and we don't really think of it as a battle within ourselves because it's more of a, we're friends. We want, I want the next man to work and do just as good as I do. So, I try to keep from thinking of it as a battle, but you want everybody to go out there and do their best.
Coming up, two defenders switch out their helmets for a pair of hard hats as they spend an off day putting in work. That's next on Vikings Beyond the Gridiron. On a rare off day in August, when the practice fields are quiet, most players spend their time away relaxing from the long days of football. Time to catch up on sleep and get ready for the week ahead. So it seems odd that two players would spend their off day working in the sand.
This is a dream since you were a kid. Everybody was playing with toys like this in their sandbox, and now they get to relive it as an adult. For a lot of people that come out here, this is their bucket list item. They've always wanted to do this. They drove past a construction site and go, what is it like to play on those pieces of equipment? We give you the opportunity to do that. And more importantly, we give you the opportunity to do that in a really safe, secure environment with a trained instructor that can help you through anything and any obstacle.
Both Audie Cole and Mike Maudie used their day off to put in some work, but a different kind of work. Jumping into the construction trucks to move some dirt and play in the sandbox.
One of the most fun, good, clean, fun activities that you could do. You come out here, you drive a bulldozer, you ramp off of them, you get the excavator, digging holes. I mean, as a kid, that's all we did was dig holes outside, get dirty, and it's one of the, it's just a great time. Great opportunity for us to come out here and just have some good, clean fun, and it was a great time for us.
Oh, it's awesome out here. It's our second time doing it now. It's fun. You can come out here and play around with something you don't do all the time. I've never played around with bulldozers and excavators and stuff until I came out here, and it's a good time.
The pair was in Hastings at Extreme Sandbox, a place where adults can be kids and play in a giant sandbox.
We're the only heavy equipment adventure company in the Midwest. When you get to come out here, we have a variety of different pieces of heavy equipment, from bulldozers to 19-ton excavators to skid steers. We also have a fire truck. It's a real working fire truck that we use for kids' birthday parties or a limo service, or you might see us in parades. And then just recently we launched our RC Adventures courses, where you get to play on RC cars or drones.
This wasn't the first trip to Extreme Sandbox for the linebackers. They spent a day here earlier this summer and had a great time moving dirt and playing in the sand.
Well, in the linebacker room, we have a Secret Santa every year in December. And so I happen to have Audie. I was the Secret Santa, so I was looking at, wanted to get him, wanted to do some sort of like activity as opposed to, just getting some sort of material thing. And so we ended up coming out here in the spring, and we spent all day out here doing the excavators, bulldozers, and we had a great time. And so just to come out here and do it again it was awesome. So, I could come out here, I could play on these things all week. It was great, man.
It took us about 6 months to get out here, but once we got out here, it was like, why didn't we do this right away? It was awesome.
On this day, both linebackers got to take their crack at digging some holes and moving dirt, picking up a car and paving a path with their bulldozers. It's quite the shift from their normal lives in the football field, but both defenders couldn't find a better way to spend an off day. They are the regular sounds of progress downtown at US Bank Stadium, but on this day, the sound signaled a great day off in the sandbox for two close friends.
Oh, I mean, it's nice. I had a great time. You come out here, you can't help but love being down here. It's fun. It's a great time.
You know, you can spend all day inside hanging out, you know, just watching Netflix. You come out and, you know, do some activities and hang out and do some, it's good, clean fun for us. So it was awesome. Yeah, it's great.
Coming up, the 10-year anniversary of a national tragedy hits home hard for a Vikings wide receiver. That's next on Vikings Beyond the Gridiron. Vikings Beyond the Gridiron is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Minnesota Vikings, by Verizon, the official wireless partner of the Minnesota Vikings, and by U.S. Bank, the official bank of the Minnesota Vikings and proud sponsor of U.S. Bank Stadium.
We are facing a storm that most of us have feared, with sustained winds of 150 miles an hour, with wind gusts of 190 miles per hour.
Buildings have collapsed. There are reports from New Orleans of people trapped in buildings that have come down around them. They have made desperate calls to 911 asking for help, asking for rescue, but the rescuers can't.
The levee system may have been overtopped. And that one of the pumps has been knocked out of commission. And
there is a fear that some folks may not be able to get out of the area in time.
We will be doing a mandatory evacuation.
Then what was supposed to be a waterproof roof started raining inside part of the Superdome.
The roof is gone. Yes, sir.
They look like refugees. They are refugees.
The Red Cross is setting up a database to try to get loved ones in touch with each other.
This week marks the 10-year anniversary of one of the deadliest hurricanes ever recorded in the United States. Hurricane Katrina struck New Orleans early in the morning, leveling its infrastructure and eventually covering 80% of the city with water. Thousands of people were left without power, food, or water, and thousands more were left wondering if their friends and family were alive and well.
My mom, I couldn't talk to her because the towers were down, so it was like nobody could get in touch with anybody. But my mom, I knew she was out safe because she had to evacuate her with her job. But the whole rest of my brothers, my three sisters, my dad, I didn't know where any of them were.
First-year Viking Mike Wallace is from New Orleans, and his whole family was there during Hurricane Katrina. He was living 5 hours north at the time, in Mississippi, and not able to find out how his family fared through the massive storm.
I was in college. My whole family was pretty much still down there. Couldn't talk to them for maybe 2-3 weeks when it first happened. So that was the toughest part, not knowing what's really going on, not knowing if they really made it out safe. But I didn't talk to any of them for maybe like 2 weeks, maybe almost 3 weeks.
Wallace was preparing for his first college football season at Ole Miss, but wasn't alone, waiting and wondering if his family was safe.
At my school at Ole Miss, we had like 4 guys from New Orleans. We all were close, and we all got through it together. Everybody was in the same situation. Some people was worse than others, but at the same time, we all was going through it. None of us knew where our family was. None of us knew how our houses and stuff were. So I think just being around those guys, we kind of bonded and got through it together.
Thanks to the support from his teammates at Ole Miss, Wallace stayed strong, and eventually he got word from his family that they were okay. Next, it was time to see how bad the damage was to his home.
We came out in a better situation than most because it was pretty much only our roof caved in, new furniture. It was so many people lost the whole foundation to their house, couldn't never go back to their house. We had to stay away maybe 6-7 months, and then we were back in our old house.
With the fear of not knowing what happened to his family gone, Wallace went on to have a productive season of football as a true freshman, playing in 10 games. And now, 10 years later, he's had the time to reflect on his experiences and the rebuilding of his home city.
Oh, it's great just to, see everybody buying and come together. So many people were down there helping us out. And just the rebound is crazy, Obviously, everything's not back to normal, but just to see all the events back up, the Jazz Fest, Mardi Gras, we even getting Super Bowls again. So it's just great to see the city rebound the way they have
and come together.
For the veteran wideout, New Orleans will always be his home, a city full of vibrant music, diverse culture, and unrelenting perseverance.
That's always important, just to know. Like I said, I never forget where I came from. You know, those neighborhoods made me.
Home may always be the Big Easy for the wide receiver, but Mike Wallace can't help but express his happiness to be here in the land of 10,000 lakes.
I'm very excited for the new year to come. I have a lot to prove, great teammates to be around. I'm excited, fresh start. Can't wait to get back, catch some long touchdowns. You know, it would be, you know, the most fitting thing would be to catch like an 80-yarder in the first game on Monday Night Football.
Happy to be in Minnesota with the Vikings, the veteran wide receiver Mike Wallace will never forget where he came from. Down the Mississippi River sits his hometown of New Orleans, where 1 decade ago the city was devastated by one of the country's worst natural disasters. The Big Easy has rebounded from this tragedy thanks to a city full of proud families like the Wallace family, hardworking and goodwill people who overcame the tragedy and continued to rebuild to make New Orleans one of the country's finest cities. The preceding has been a presentation of the Vikings Entertainment Network.